Uh, Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible. It's raining, so I hope the speaker is not drowning out my voice in this rain. I'm very happy to introduce my colleague, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who has suggested this film for Talking Films Online. This is the 21st session of Talking Films Online, and I'm very happy that Dr. Sanjay Kumar will be initiating the discussion on this film. Sanjay Kumar has been teaching French poetry and drama at the Department of French and Francophone Studies, the EFL University Hyderabad, for the last 10 years. He has a doctorate in Swiss French literature from JNU, New Delhi. So far, he has published 10 books and more than 16 research articles in French, English, and Hindi. He has also translated 3 French novels into Hindi, including one by Patrick Modiano, the recipient of the 2014 Nobel Prize in Literature. He is particularly interested in French literary representation of the revolt of 1857 in India. Welcome, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, and over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nikhila, for introducing me, and good evening to all of you. So today we are going to discuss this French film Caché, which means hidden, and which is directed by Michael Haneke, an Austrian film director. It was released in 2005, for which Haneke won the Best Director Award at 2005 Cannes Film Festival. It presents a progressive take on an uneasy relation of France with its colonial past. So, Caché, which is hidden. So, what is hidden from our view? Following the structure of a thriller, the film withholds information and frustrates our attempt to find out an easy answer. In other words, it leaves enough room to the viewer to think. What purpose does whodunit play here? The success of the film lies in situating the narrative at the intersection of the individual and the collective memory. My presentation is divided in 3 parts, where I discuss the narrative technique, the theme of the repressed past, and the representation of the self and the other. The objective of this presentation is primarily to provide a background to the narrative and a detailed analysis. So the narrative doesn't give more information to the audience than the characters have. So the viewer doesn't feel superior to characters or pity for them, as it happens in dramatic irony. In the beginning, the camera chooses to focus on the life of Georges, Anne, and their elusive child, Pierrot. We feel sympathy for this family, as they are supposed to be a victim of the unwanted surveillance. George turns out to be an introvert and doesn't share much his concern with his wife, Anne, who is equally affected. He gives the impression as if by his reticence, he was sparing his wife from worries. During the dinner scene, George receives the 3rd cassette of surveillance, but prefers to suppress this fact. Though he is obviously lying, we may reasonably assume that he doesn't want to spoil the mood of the party. Taking the clue from the 4th cassette, he goes to visit Majid after informing Anne. But after his meeting with Majid, he tells Anne that there was nobody in the flat. Then we start doubting whether there is an ulterior motive for hiding the detail of this meeting from his wife. We realize by then that he is an inveterate liar. By the time the 5th tape arrives, showing Majid breaking down and George narrates to Anne how he managed to get rid of the orphaned Majid, we discover that he is not only an inveterate liar, but also a scoundrel who doesn't take responsibility of his actions. As Majid says, you barge in and accuse me of blackmailing. You have not changed. This experience is extremely destabilizing for the viewer. What follows in the story questions our notion of the perpetrator and the victim. Who is terrorizing whom? Who is the terrorist? Majid's statement forces us to connect the colonial situation with the post-colonial one. Foregrounding and backgrounding are very compelling in the film of Haneke. To take one example, after the suicide scene of Majid, we see George coming out of a cinema complex. We find him exactly under the poster of the film, Deux Frères, Two Brothers. This is a film released in the year 2004, which depicts the life of two tigers separated early in their life and brought up in different milieu. Later on, they meet to fight with each other. The parallel is too obvious to ignore. Similarly, in the beginning of the film, while watching the second cassette, George shifts to TV news, where we hear the words caché, hidden, and suspect. We can go on analyzing the background conversation between Pierre and an unknown person at the time of the release of a book, where we hear Anne talking to George on mobile. The background conversation is loud enough. We can also discuss the selection of the names of the street. For example, Rue Iris, which is Iris in English, where George and Anne live, with Pierrot and Avenue Lenin, where we find Majid. Videotapes are obviously catalysts to move the story forward, but what about sketches? We see at least 3 sketches supposedly made by a child. The second tape comes wrapped in a sketch showing a blood-spattered mouth. George receives in his office another sketch on a card which shows other parts of the body along with the blood-spattered mouth. Pierrot receives a similar card in his school. The tape George receives at dinner time is wrapped in a paper which has a sketch of rooster showing blood at the neck. What role do they play in the narrative? Last time when George goes to meet Majid, the camera shows him from the opposite side, that is from the side of the building. At all other times, we see the back of George entering the building. Can the change of the position of the camera be read as an indication that we are changing side? Are we siding with Majid now? Towards the end, George is shown in the dark in his bedroom after shutting all the windows. He stops Anne from switching the light on. What does that signify? How do we read the long wide shot of the steps of the school of Pierrot at the end? Then we see the return of the repressed in this film. After a lot of questioning from Anne, George narrates briefly, though reluctantly, how Majid lost his Algerian parents at the night of October 17, 1961. A little discussion of the socio-historic context of this episode will help us in situating the plot of the film. Algeria has been ruled by France from 1830 to 1962. From 1954 to 1962, Algeria underwent an intense struggle for independence, and October 17, 1961, Algerians living in France were called upon by the Algerian National Liberation Front, that is FLN, to participate in a demonstration in Paris. Police officers threw many demonstrators in the river Seine to die. The French government suppressed facts for 37 years by restricting police archives. This event became a subject of public debate when Papon, who was the prefect of the police at that time, was charged and convicted in 1998. According to historian Jean-Luc Aynoudi, in 1961, French police force included many former members of the force in place during the Vichy regime that collaborated with the Gestapo to detain Jews during the World War II. In one scene, when George is dialing a number on the phone in his office, we can see a book in the background, La Grande Histoire des Français sous l'Occupation by Henri Amourou. That is the full history of the French under occupation. It's a 10-volume book published between 1976 and 1993. Amourou was called to testify on behalf of Maurice Papon in 1997 and who was on trial for his role in the deportation of Jews during the German occupation of France. Amourou was accused of being an apologist for Papon and wishes collaboration with the Nazis. This Seine River massacre has been a part of France's repressed memory. In this backdrop, it is possible to analyze the repressed childhood memory of the protagonist, Georges. Is there a link between the collective memory and the individual memory here? Moreover, is the position of Amourou close to that of Georges? In the film, when Georges and Anne are coming out of the police station, a boy of African origin on cycle is almost to hit Georges. This encounter leads to an unpleasant altercation. Do we see it as a normal daily encounter on the street, or we can read something deeper into it? The hatred coupled with the fear of the other is a very important theme in the film. The prosperous West fear and hatred of the Muslim world is manifested in this film. How is the killing of Majid seen by Georges in the film? It seems the killing of Rooster has a parallel in the killing of Majid. Now, let us see how the self has been represented and the other has been represented. Georges and Anne have different traits in the film. Georges is shown to be reserved, who doesn't share even important information with his wife. He doesn't share his concern with his mother when he goes to the farmhouse, though she can make out from his face that there is something wrong. His behavior with the Majid is not becoming of a matured person. On the other hand, Anne is shown to be willing to share her concern with her friends and keeps on asking her husband, Georges, to share his thoughts. She is very upset when Georges is being secretive. She says this to Pierre in a cafe scene. She argues that what Georges thinks to be personal is affecting the life of the whole family. She talks about employing detectives if the police are not helping. On this, Georges mocks at her that she has been watching too much of detective programs on TV. But in a certain way, by constant doubting and questioning, she is herself fulfilling the role of a detective, trying to extract information from the repressed past of Georges. She plays a very important role in the plot of the film. She is the one who forces Georges to revisit his childhood guilt. She has the aptitude of a detective. She is the one who connects the private with the public. It is her efforts that bring out the fact that the personal is political. Georges doesn't care much what happens to Majid and his son when the police bring them to the police station. Anne asks Georges about Majid and his son, as they are not found to be involved in the so-called kidnapping of Pierrot. We come to know through Georges that the police kept them in the lockup for the night in spite of their innocence. Georges tells Anne that Majid called him to explain about the tapes. Then he wanted Georges to be present and cut his throat. Here Georges hides the crucial fact that Majid told him before committing suicide that he had no knowledge about the cassette. Majid committed suicide at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whereas he reaches home, Georges reaches home in the evening when it is very dark. When Anne asks him where he has been, he says he was in the city. But we have seen him coming out of a cinema complex where he might have seen a film. In a sequence, we see a few writers and intellectuals discussing the literary talk hosted by Georges Laurent. Then we realize immediately that it's a recording which Georges is editing with the help. The subject of the discussion is the role of Isabelle Rimbaud, the sister and the literary executor of the great 19th century poet Arthur Rimbaud, in the representation of the poet after his death. One speaker says that Isabel kept total control over the publication of Rimbaud's works and even consigned to fire the works which shocked her conservative sensibility. According to the speaker, she tried to build the aura of a pious nun, like a builder constructs a wall garden. It is important to emphasize here that Rimbaud is known for his opposition to the orthodoxy of the Western Christian religion. Interestingly, his long poem Une Saison en Enfer is dedicated to Satan. At this point, one of the discussants chooses to disagree. George instructs his colleagues to delete this portion. Obviously, George is also exercising his authority to control the representation of the debate over Rimbaud. Being the host of a book chat program, he is a dominant actor in the dissemination of images. His authority is challenged by the arrival of surveillance video cassettes. His nervousness results from the realization that someone can represent him, and not to his advantage. From the scene of his living room and dining room, we can see how meticulously he has constructed the wall of his intellectual image. He is disturbed by the fact that this wall is crumbling under the subversive intervention of an outsider. Thus, Cachet, in a way, employs a narrative technique which brings out the repressed past of an individual and connects it with the repressed memory of a nation. Though it raises a political question in the context of the colonial past of France, it can be applicable to various other nations. Yeah, thank you very much.
I think
yes, Geeta. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a problem with Nikhila's connection due to the rains in Hyderabad. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'll just take over. Yeah, so thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much for opening out the many layers of the film. Okay, so would anyone like to make a comment or have make an intervention at this point?
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, yes, Layali, please come in.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, I want to present brief and quick comments. We can see that the movie is presenting or portraying the peace of family has been challenged by unknown person who tried to scare them, as these families have been always or most of the time under watching. These deeds agitated the father's emotion of being sinful. So the sin and consequently the sense of guilt as a result of that sin is the issue that the director or narrator wanted to draw our attention to it. In the course of narration, the director's interest was not to exercise our reason as to know who is trying to take revenge, because this vividly or clearly reflected in not revealing the identity of the hidden character. One more thing, the director has not tried to confirm our suspicion about one particular character. So then activating our awareness toward the sin was giving priority over the puzzle itself. The narrator, in my point of view, try to deliver a message, try to deliver a moral lesson that evil deeds always return to us. and not necessarily from the ones who we hurted. Also, as the identity of that hidden character was blurred or ambiguous, for the film we can assume that it is portraying vindictive feeling as well as jealous feelings, because the character is almost hidden. So we cannot read or anticipate the motive of uncomfortable deeds or these criminal deeds. Thank you, that's all.
Sanjay, would you like to respond to that?
I mean, obviously, but there is nothing much to say about it. And we know that initially George suspects that probably one of the friends of his son Piero has been filming their house, and they have been sending these video cassettes. But because initially he thinks that it is just a kind of joke, or maybe one of the fans of George is doing that. But later on, that matter becomes more serious when we find sketches with blood. So the film, in a way, doesn't give any answer. And speak about it. I don't want to speak much about it. Because I have already said, whatever I had to say. But otherwise, the director is, sometimes dropping hints that probably, this character is sending videos. But later on, it is negated also. So it is not confirmed who is sending these videos. And anyway, we have to think whether it is important to know who is sending videos. Important to know what these videos cause, what effect the videos cause.
Right.
So in any case, you see, if you don't tell exactly the answer, who is sending these videos, for example, in Waiting for Godot, Samuel Beckett was asked, that who is Godot? So he didn't want to answer who is Godot. Obviously, if you don't answer, then people will, guess, and they will assume, that in a different way. But if you give a final definitive answer, then the matter is closed. So that discourages, various types of interpretations. And no director, a good director would like to give a clear answer in that way. So that way, Mikhail Haneke is very successful.
Yeah. I think that is what is also interesting about the film, that it is publicized as a thriller, but I think it defies that very genre by, generally in thrillers, a problem is presented and the solution is towards the end of the movie. You also, kind of get to solve that riddle. But that doesn't really happen in this film. And another thing that I found interesting was it reminded me of a film that we discussed just a fortnight ago, and that is Force Majeure. Where you have this this bourgeois family that is depicted, seemingly happy and all that, and some external force and intervention which kind of disrupts the routine as well as the apparent happiness of the family. Would anyone else like to come in at this point? Yes. Layali, you have unmuted. You would like to say something again? No.
I did my best, but I can share also that and the identity of character is revealed who did this criminal activity or uncomfortable deeds. So we cannot expect what is the motive behind such deeds. And also, as any spectator or viewer can, in common sense, can expect a kind of puzzle or problem. But I think the narrator is absolutely presenting different issue, which is the effect of guilt as a result of committing a sin, sorry, in the past experience, and how this sense is affected the relationship, how the mother was express her extreme fearness about the child, and these things. And also, I'd like to add that almost the movie had a clear message that always harmful deeds will come back by the course of time. We will receive, these bad deeds will return to us, even though or apart from the ones whom we really did bad things to them. So we must be rewarded about our deeds.
Okay, thank you, Layali. Anyone else would like to make? Okay.
Geeta, can
yeah.
I?
Yeah, please carry on. In fact, now that you're back, you can just take over, Nikhila.
Oh no, the internet connection is very unstable. We are barely able to log in. So it will go off. So thanks for taking over. It took me a long time to get back.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So I missed most of Sanjay's presentation because I was just trying to get in. So
I think we have lost the connection again. Are you there, Nikhila? Okay. And just an announcement.
Actually see something that is unfolding. Yeah.
Okay,
so,
okay. Carry on. We couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
Could you, Sanjay, are you able to hear Nikhila?
No, she's not audible.
She's not audible, right. Would anyone else like to speak? Yeah, Divya, please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. I had a question about the last scene of the movie. So after paying a lot of attention there, because there were a lot of unanswered questions, of course, we could see that in like the bottom left corner of the frame, Majid's son is talking to Piero outside his school, and this doesn't happen in like the center of the frame. So it's obviously something that it wasn't meant to like particularly draw our attention. But what was the point of that scene? Because it went for a really long time and we can't discern any of that conversation. In addition to that, my question is, was that also another videotape? Because there is a very clear difference between the way the videotape sequences are shot, obviously with like a static camera, and how the others are shot. There is a clear camera movement and everything. So was that last scene just another videotape? Was that telling us that they've got the wrong person? Or what was the idea behind that last scene?
Yeah, Sanjay, would you like to respond?
I think it's better if somebody else responds.
Okay, would anyone else like to think about the question that Divya has raised? Arun, Pradeep, Maniraj, Sridhar, anybody?
Okay, let me answer, I think, since
Yeah, please.
nobody is unmuting. Well,
Right.
so it's one way of interpreting is that if you see it in a still in a pessimist way, that probably this hostility between Majid and George is passed on to the next generation. And another one is to see it in a positive light, that probably they want to, bury the hatchet and let us move forward. So we see that Majid, is bringing um, Pierrot from the top, and they climb down both on the left side. And they talk for some time, and from their gestures, we can't say that they are fighting or they are arguing or having any dispute. And at the same time, we can't make out whether they are very close friends. So it is difficult to say. But probably we can think about how, since Majid is already dead and George, in a very different way, he is trying to shut himself away from the world, when he goes to his bedroom and shuts all the windows. So it seems he is not yet ready to accept his guilt, which is again an allegory for the national guilt of France, that the way they treated Algeria. How are we going to move forward? So it can be interpreted in both ways. If you are pessimistic, you will say that probably this hostility will continue and it will pass on to the next generation. And if you are optimistic, you will say probably that they are ready to end this dispute and think about a better future. So that represents the relationship between not only Pierrot and the son of Majid, who has not been named in the film, but also France and Algeria, or let us say in general, any colonial power, erstwhile colonial power, and any colonized country.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, before I request the others to come in, I would just like to say that the meeting will end automatically at the end of 4 minutes. So please log in again through the same link. Thank you. Yeah, would anyone like to come in at this point? A comment, a question?
Hello.
Yeah, Nandini. Nandini. Yes, Nandini, go ahead.
Actually, yeah. No, I was just curious about the title of the film, and I missed the first opening remarks by Dr. Kumar. So I don't know if you touched on this, but what is the significance of Cachet as a title for this film? I mean, what do you think?
Hidden. So it can be interpreted in various ways. For example, who is sending the video cassettes? That person is hidden from our view. We don't know. Another way is to see that George, who is, on the surface seems to be a very educated, civilized person, how he behaves in different situations of the scenes which we have seen in the film. He is still behaving in a childish way. When he goes to Majid, Majid is very polite and he's talking in a very familiar way. Majid is asking him, why are you, talking to me as a stranger? That in French we use tu among friends. Like in Hindi we say tu, tum. So Majid is using that register and George is using like aap, which maintains the distance between two people. So there is a repressed past which is hidden from the view of from the audience, and also from his wife. So there can be so many things in the film which are hidden. So we do not have the complete information, and that is where the viewer has the room to think, to use one's own imagination. So one is the appearance, and behind the appearance there is something which is hidden. So what is hidden? What is cache? Like in today's world, this George and Majid, they are living. This is a post-colonial world. But beneath that, there is a colonial past which is hidden and which they are not ready to accept. For example, George is not ready to accept that he made a kind of crime by depriving Majid from having a good education, because the parents of George, they were going to adopt Majid, and Majid cooked up a false story that George cooked up a false story about Majid that he is having tuberculosis and he is oozing out blood, and he killed the cock to frighten him. And we should remember that cock is also the national symbol of France, which denotes the pride of the nation.
So what do you think, like, is that also some kind of a mystery and added doubt that Hanke wants to, put in the viewer? Is it adding one more layer of doubt to the series of doubts that the film raises? Because the suicide of Majid, I think, is it's really a very shocking and tragic scene, and especially because he comes across as so convincing when he says that he has nothing to do with those the videos as well as the drawings that seem to be appearing at George's house. And yet somehow the reviews that I read don't seem to discuss the scene at all.
Yeah, you are right, actually. But Majid, Majid and his son, both of them, they are taken away by the police to the police station, and they stay there. I mean, they have been put in the lockup. Though George has informed Anne that they have been proved to be innocent, that they have not kidnapped the child. Now the point is that why are they kept in the lockup? No, there is the director is not showing. Again, that is one thing which is hidden from our view, that what happens to Majid and his son when they are in the lockup. George says that the boy has been shouting, yelling, and so Majid was also disturbed, and finally they put them in the lockup. You can also see the way the police treat when they enter the flat of Majid, that the son is there, the boy is there, and they push him, and then they directly say, where is the boy, as if they have kidnapped. So the point is that before you prove the guilt of somebody, you already condemn someone, and not only condemn, but you also punish. You mete out the punishment also. That is something which happens, and which is a part of our systemic violence. So what has happened to Majid and his son in the lockup, we don't know. Moreover, they claim that they have been innocent, and Majid, since he finally commits suicide also, we can assume, because he commits suicide and just before dying he says that he has nothing to do with the tape. He has no knowledge about the tape. A person who is dying, normally we consider that person is speaking the truth. Otherwise, why should he take his own life? So they have been the victim. It is not George who is victim in the film. It is Majid who has been the victim in the film. And George has been conspiring against him. So the point is not that who sent the tape, okay? But finally, because the tapes are sent, you see, when Majid, in the Majid's flat, George is there, and the camera captures everything. And finally, it is only because of this video cassette that Anne knows what happened exactly in that flat. Otherwise, George hasn't told Anne. George simply said that he went to check whether there is any flat like that, and the housekeeper, or whoever, concierge, told him that there is nobody, it's an empty flat, it's like that. So he simply lies, but he has been threatening. George has been threatening Majid. So you can imagine somebody who has been deprived of a good education, who could have been actually the brother, brother of George, because the parents of George wanted to adopt him, and he could have got good education, and already his parents are killed. They are drowned by the Parisian police in the Seine River. So how much atrocities have been committed against George and his family, which he has been tolerating. Still, he has been behaving very normally and very warmly. He's asking about the mother of George, and how you joined TV channel. So after all that, then being accused of kidnapping the child. So that can be, something which can trigger the feeling of taking one's own life, out of frustration. So Majid kills himself. So finally, who sends the tape? Neither for the director, and probably, like we asked this question in Waiting for Godot, who is Godot? So and there was one play written in Switzerland where the author has been named as Godot. So probably the director has been sending all these cassettes. The point is to unmask George, who has been hiding his guilt, who has been um, conspiring against this boy Majid, who was just a child at that time. So it is all these cassettes, they are in a way a mechanism. They are in a way, a tool for in the hands of the director to expose George. Otherwise, we will not come to know the truth.
Right. Nikhila, before you lose the connection once again, hopefully you won't, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I was trying to say, I mean, I don't know what has been discussed really, so I don't know if this will be a repetition. What I found very interesting was while we are watching the film, we are not sure if, I mean, at least to begin with, it seems like we are actually watching, what Sanjay was saying, to put it crudely, what the director is showing us. And then we realize that it is, something that is recorded, something that, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So something that is recorded by someone, I mean, whoever that entity is. So it's so this kind of reflexivity of that image. At one level, we think that it is something that is coming to us as presented by the director or the film, and then we realize that it is a recording, and then we are watching it with the couple. That I found very interesting, and also at various points, I mean, the technique, which does not allow for us to really recognize what is what. For instance, there are certain, scenes where we are not sure if it is a point of view shot of the character, that is, let's say, George looking out of the window, or it is the camera which is actually capturing a scene. So I thought that play was very interesting. I'm not sure of the implications of that. I did 2 viewings of the film, but I'm still quite amazed at how this works. The second aspect, I think this has been discussed already by many, is the unraveling of the character of George in the film. That seems to be the motive, rather than trying to find out who did it. So initially we identify with this couple in trying to unravel who did, who's behind this. And then we realize that, well, that doesn't seem to be the point of the film. The point is, what did George do? So, that is slowly, over the course of several painful and half revelations, it comes to us in the course of the film. So these 2 points I thought were very, very interesting. And like Geeta, I too kept, seeing similarities between Force Majeure and this film. And again, the male characters in both the films, I thought were quite similar, kind of bad faith in the marital relationship, and so on. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Nikhila. Sanjay, would you like to respond to that, or would
Yeah,
someone...
it's a matter. Yes, it's a matter of bad faith, because George is not able to take responsibility. Is not able to accept the responsibility for his actions. It is obvious that first he tried to, because once he realized that Majid will be adopted by his parents, he's telling lies, and he's trying to find out ways in order to, kick him out of the family, out of the house. We have seen also how in the last scene that, Majid is being taken away to the orphanage or whichever other place. So it's not only that he lost his parents, and in fact, the parents of George, they wanted to rectify that, because accepting that it was the fault of the French government or the French police, in physically eliminating parents of a small child. So they wanted to adopt, but George, he doesn't want to share. He says that, he didn't want to share his room with anybody. So slowly that he's, in a way, selfish personality, which is still hidden, because in the beginning we see that he is an intellectual who is organizing a literary talk show, and his house is full with books, his wife is working in a publishing house, so everything is fine at the outset, and they are finding out a terrorist. Who is the terrorist? George is himself a terrorist. He doesn't know. He's trying to do a self projection on Majid and trying to present him as a terrorist. But this is the guilt which George has to accept, and this is exactly the guilt which any erstwhile colonial power has to accept. That's the, I think, message which the director wanted to convey, rather than finding out who sends the cassette, which happens normally in any, as Nikhila said, that in any movie like thriller, normal thriller, but this is different.
Okay, thank you, Sanjay. Yeah, anyone else? Some of you who haven't said anything until now, would you like to come in at this point? Pradeep, Sridhar, Arun, Bhagyalakshmi. Nikhila has unmuted. You'd like to say something?
Tarkeshwar.
Okay, Tarkeshwar, yeah, welcome. Yes. Go ahead.
Sorry for not being part of the discussion because of the internet here. Yeah, I think I do agree with many of the points. The one that I think Sanjay began with, it operates at two levels, one at the individual memory and then the collective memory. So I think the cache also means, cache also means hidden memory, especially in the internet, the IT computer language. So a file that has been erased or you have deleted, which has disappeared, still available in the cache or
Yes.
cache. So in that sense, there is a attempt to delete or not remember the memory, but it is still there. You can't wish away the cache. So it is still there. So it comes to haunt you back. So how it comes, what triggers the haunt is a different issue. So one, it could be your conscience, or it could be the tape. The tape, who is sending it is not so important. Tape is only the physical form of a trigger which brings back that cache to you, what is hidden, your memories. At individual level, yes, once you achieve something, when you look back, you would have achieved those things on the basis of certain things which today you find uncomfortable to acknowledge openly. So I'm using the word openly clear because George acknowledges it, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it openly in front of others. So he's afraid of confessing it to others openly, so either to his wife or to somebody else. So at individual level, he knows what it is. The figure easily brings to him what could be the trigger. What is the past memory that is haunting him? So he goes back to those places. He wants to meet those people. So it is this conscience which is running it, and the external object which triggers that conscience could be tape or could be something else. Or it's a narrative device they used by the quote unquote director. But at the collective level, if George stands for France and Majid stands for Algeria, then it is a different story altogether. So rather than focusing on what triggers the looking at caste, we need to look at what are the consequences of the burden of the past. So we want to forget about it, but it is not possible to forget it. It will be still there, and we don't know when it comes to the fore. Once it comes to the fore, how do we handle it? So the erstwhile colonizer has to reckon with the colonizing past that they had. So how do they reckon with? How do they come to terms with it? So here, not only George is a culprit. if you're looking at the collective memory of colonialism, George's wife, his son, everyone is, in that sense, is a culprit. I don't know why we are singling out only George if it is a collective crime, especially the killing of Majid's parents. I don't think it is George. It's a collective thing. Everyone has to own up the responsibility, including George's parents. In fact, they did own it up to some extent. That's why they wanted to adopt Majid. But they can't wish away even now. That is one point. The second point I would like to point out is there a scene from beginning to almost till the end where George is not there? Though the camera is there, I think the entire narrative is about George. Though it is the tragedy of Majid, it is about George. Only the last scene, we don't have George. We have the two boys meeting in front of the school. So it ends with that. So I don't know what does this scene mean actually. It's a new generation. How do they handle the colonial past? Because until then, George is present in every scene. Without George, no scene takes place. Even if something has happened, only when George enters the scene, that gets revealed to us. So everything is revealed to us through the presence of George to us. But only the last scene, George is not there. He is in a darkness, closed by within a room, without any light. He has closed everything, and he is completely naked. And the last scene where these two boys meet in front of the school is something that needs further critical reflection, I think, to understand the narrative further. I think understanding it at two levels, at the individual conscience, which tries to forget the past to enjoy the fruits of the present, and but the past coming back to haunt you not to enjoy the fruits of the present, because there is a link between the present and the past, and then the collective one. So how the second generation is will try to come to terms with the past of a nation, especially a colonized nation, is something that we need to discuss further. I stop here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karthishwar. Sanjay, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, we have to think about the history of France, that how come this person, Maurice Papon, who was guilty of sending Jews to Nazis during the Second World War, was given this post of prefect, the chief of police in Paris. There is something which happened in the parliament at the time when Jean-Marie Le Pen, who is the father of this present Marine Le Pen, who has a fascist party called Front National, National Front in France. This Jean-Marie Le Pen, at that time, he was in the assembly, and he raised a slogan that drown all these Arabs into the Seine River. He said that, and interestingly, just after that, this Maurice Papon was given this post. So that is something which the French government has to own up. This person was not only guilty of deporting Jews in the World War II, but Maurice Papon was also guilty of torturing Algerians at the time of Algerian War, which happened between 1954 to 62. So why this person was again given such an important post? The person who could have been treated as a war criminal, he was given the post of the chief of police in Paris. How did it happen? Not only that, when the demonstrators, they were drowned in the Seine River, initially they did not own up. The police said that maybe one or two people died somewhere, and they were not ready to accept it. For 37 years, there was complete censor, and the newspapers, the media, they were not able to bring out the truth. of this drowning of all these Algerians, Moroccan. Some of the Moroccans also participated in the demonstration. The people from the Maghreb region. So it is only after 37 years that Maurice Papon again he was accused, and that was only because of the effort of some of the historians who wanted to put the the finger of accusation on Maurice Papon, and after that that became a public event. The people started discussing, but what happened between 1961 and 1997 is shameful. So that is the repressed past. That is what is hidden, cache, which is probably the director is trying to retrieve through the story of and as far as the point of, yes, of course, George is at the center, and that is probably the choice of the director. He could have probably focused more on Majid than on George. But again, since it is narrated in that way, because something which is hidden, so that is hidden, because what happened to Majid when he went to the orphanage, and now he is already in his 40s. That is hidden from the view of the audience.
Okay, thank you, Sanjay. Yeah. Anyone else would like to make a comment or raise a question? Arun, would you like to say something? Yeah, Arun.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
I'll just say something in continuation of what has already been discussed, nothing new. So, like about the point, the director being the instigator of all these conflicts in the film. Okay, so there is ample kind of very, very subtle proof all along the film, which tells us that the director is himself a part of this film, not as an external entity, but it's a very meta thing here. Okay, so something very interesting happens. I don't know whether anyone noticed it. So we see this static camera, like that shot of their house. That is the very first shot, right? So sometime later, when the same exact shot is shown, it's at night time, I guess, and a car comes from behind or something, and light is falling on the house and everything, and we see on the left side of the wall, we actually see the shadow of the camera, the director's camera, big camera. We can see it for a few seconds there. Okay, so now we can say that might have been a glitch, but Haneke is not the kind of director who will make a glitch like that. Okay, that is somewhat intentional. So the role of the director is, his fingerprint is there all along. And another thing is about Majid's suicide. And there are people who call this a murder as well. Okay, so I'll first talk about the murder. So there are some interpretations of this scene. They say that, which is actually critical of Haneke. They say that Haneke here made Majid a sacrificial lamb to prove his point. Okay, this is a common sort of criticism in this post-colonial studies and all. Even in Dalit studies, I believe. Like, this is very similar to what we saw in the other film, like An Off Day's Game. So that Dalit man is killed there. Okay, and here also we see an Algerian Franco-Algerian. He is killed by the director to arouse the feelings of repressed guilt within the audience. And the audience of Haneke is also another important factor. Haneke is the, we can say, he's the quintessential European art director. Okay, and he has a very niche kind of bourgeois elite audience all around Europe, in art houses and film festivals and all. And in that suicide scene, what we see is that after Majid slits his throat, the shot lingers on for a substantial amount of time. Okay, so the director's design is that the audience who is watching this has to confront this reality, and he has actually called it something. So I have read it some time back, but now I don't remember. He called it some kind of reality, like some brutal reality or something. So he wants the audience to confront this reality. They shouldn't be able to look away, or a quick cut shouldn't, help them get over this atrocity. So he is, in a way, like many said before, making France as a whole confront the atrocities of its colonial past here. Right. So George here, we can say he's just a George, and others as well. They are just representatives of the French conscience as a whole. And another point was about this. Like Sanjay sir said, this is a film which is obviously a contemporary film. But what we see is that the colonial paradigm, the colonial interactions between these characters are dictated by their colonial underpinnings, colonial history, and it is shown throughout the film. Just a second. Yeah. So this colonial paradigm is visible throughout the film. Another point was about those different sort of visuals we see in the film, different technologies behind them. Okay, the very first, I think Nikhila ma'am already pointed it out. The very first shot is that from that recording device which is placed outside. But then we have no idea, as the audience, as we start watching the film, we have no clue that this is a recording. But slowly the camera pans out, and we saw that the whatever we are seeing is happening on the TV. But there is, you'll see that there is no sort of distortion in the quality of the video, the image. That is, this is not something which is usual. Okay, this is not something very common. Whenever we see some video recordings within the film, the quality of that will be different from the film as a whole. But here the transition is they're seamless. There is no distortions there. This is again the director playing with the audience. Yeah, that's it.
Very much, Arun. Sanjay, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, this killing of Rooster actually has a parallel in the suicide of Majid, because in the childhood, George first he tries to convince his parents that Majid is suffering from tuberculosis and he is oozing out blood from his mouth. So it can be, dangerous for his own health and other people in the family. Then the doctor comes and the doctor says that no, he doesn't have anything, any disease. So that doesn't work. Then George tries another trick. He asks Majid to kill a rooster and says that father asked me to tell you that you should kill the rooster. So that is not the fact. He is lying. So finally the rooster is killed. And then he tells the parents that Majid wanted to scare him by killing the rooster. Now, what happens when Majid commits suicide? He comes back from Avenue Lenin to his own home, and he tells Anne that Majid wanted to scare him by killing himself. So he is accusing Majid. He hides the fact that Majid has already told before dying that he has nothing to do with the cassette. And to top it all, he says that Majid killed himself only to scare him. So the rooster, which was killed when George was a child, is replaced by Majid here. That Majid is killed. So rather than blaming himself for the death of Majid, he is blaming Majid that he is scaring him. So he is always, projecting his own guilt over the other people. And colonial underpinning is there, even in the confrontation, in the encounter between this boy of African origin and George. And George and Anne, both of them, they are coming out of the police station. So this boy who is, cycling very fast and he almost hits George. So they have a brief altercation. But the kind of anger, the kind of, as interestingly, Geeta and other people were also mentioning, even Arun was also mentioning, what happened in force majeure. That, since he was Dalit, so that anger, is more in the character. So here, but then he sees that, this person can confront him. This boy can equally respond. Then somehow, after that, Anne tries to pacify both of them, says that, okay, you committed a mistake by coming from wrong direction, and George committed a mistake by not watching his way before crossing the road. So that colonial past, which has been brushed aside, maybe kept underneath, is again cropping up to haunt George and in general haunt France.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, for this nice discussion and for introducing us to this excellent film. And we have really enjoyed the discussion. You have opened out its many layers. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, Geeta, and thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, everyone.